Shall we talk about the winners first or the losers first?
Well, I think we should probably talk about the winners first, right?
By all means, let's talk about the winners first.
Yeah. Okay.
So the Tampa Bay Lightning, I'm just kidding because they're the grand winners, having 2 in a row. Colorado Avalanche, they did the thing that other teams have not been able to do, which is when it was up 1-0 for the Tampa Bay Lightning, I literally texted a friend and said, well, I guess Tampa's won.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that's what Tampa does in elimination games. They score 1 goal and then give you bupkis.
Which is exactly what Colorado did in Game 6. They flipped the script entirely in the third period. It was 2-1. It was 2-1, and it was keep away. It was
remarkable.
Yeah, it really, really was. It really, really was, and I think it showed a level of maturity in this group that we were waiting to see, and now they've shown it, and they're worthy champions. I mean, they were the better team in this series.
They were the better team,
without question. Without question, they were, from start to finish, they were the better team. They deserved to win the series, even with the controversial too many men on the ice goal in overtime.
Oh, shut up about this stuff. You know,
like I'm not convinced Colorado doesn't win that game anyways, even if they call that goal back, because they were absolutely dominating Tampa in that overtime. I think Tampa, God love them. They just ran out. They were spent. They couldn't. They had no more to give, and they hit a wall, and that's okay. I mean, because you're playing Colorado, who earned their way to the final by, having by really getting there quickly. They win in 4, they win in 6, they win in 4. That's 14 games in the first 3 rounds. That's amazing. So by the time the final comes, they're a lot more ready to go, and they're rested, and they're not as banged up. Although Nazem Kadri and Valery Nichushkin were pretty banged up, but I mean, I think it was a worthy win for the Colorado Avalanche. They're absolutely full marks for it. No asterisks here, nothing. This was a dominant performance from start to finish in the playoffs.
Yeah, I completely agree. I wanted to talk a little bit about the goaltending for the Colorado Avalanche because, of course, you and I went back and forth about. I said that Kemper wasn't good enough, and you said he doesn't have to be, and I want to redeem my take.
And I was right. Shocker.
You were. I wanted to redeem my take just a little bit and say that the team, the Colorado Avalanche, for 13 minutes in the third period did not allow a single shot on goal.
Yeah.
I did not know that was an option to simply prevent Tampa from shooting at all. Like if I had known that was an option, if I know that Kemper was going to have to face 0 shots, then sure, he's good enough.
Well, like he said afterwards, it was fun watching the third period.
Did he say?
But you know what? I mean, yeah, he did. He did. But I think through the first 3 or maybe 4 games of the series, Kemper actually had better numbers than Vasilevsky.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, Tampa didn't crush them in the goaltending category in this series. And so that was, I think, part of the reason why it didn't go their way. They had to crush Colorado in the goaltending department in order to win this series. And they didn't.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, to your point, Colorado, just the thing that I was thinking about was we talked about last week how Tampa has more Hall of Famers, probable Hall of Famers on their team than Colorado does.
At this point, I would say probably. Who are the probable Hall of Famers on the Colorado Avalanche? Right now, it would be Nathan McKinnon, Cale Makar. That's probably about it at this point.
Yeah.
That's probably about it.
But the thing that I was also thinking was that, and we both know, and we're going to talk about the Hall of Fame later, that it's really the Hall of very, very good. Right. It's not even, it's getting to be the Hall of not even very, very good. It's getting to be the Hall of
pretty good or good. Like it's, I find the standard has really started to erode, and I'll have a lot to say about that in a future segment on this podcast. Like a lot, the future segment. Like a lot. All
right. Well, we'll save a lot of time for that. Like a lot.
Okay.
But what I was going to say was that Colorado, even though they might not have as many future Hall of Famers, they have two superstars. Two of the top 5 players in the league, potentially.
Yep.
And I was thinking about that with Tampa, and as good as Braden Point is, as good as maybe Kucherov is the only one that falls into the superstar category. Like they've got a team of excellent players, but none of them are Cale Makar's. And I mean, Nathan McKinnon kind of had a little bit of a down series this series. But a goal and an assist in the last game, he showed up when it mattered. But they're just like, they don't have the superstars on the team. The guys that you just say, here's the puck, you're LeBron James, take it and score.
Well, they do have a superstar in that they have the best goalie in the world. So he is the goaltending equivalent of that. But I get what you say, and they don't have the Cale Makar because there's 31 other teams in the NHL. Well, 30 other teams other than Tampa that don't have Cale Makar because nobody has Cale Makar. Right. There's nobody right now in the NHL that does what this guy does. This guy is a unicorn right now. He is a unicorn. He's got a Hobey Baker, a Calder Trophy, a Norris Trophy, and a Conn Smythe Trophy, and he's 23 years old. Yeah. This is the kind of thing where we're used to seeing once every 50 years or so. This guy, I think, is going to be, well, he's already in the conversation of best player in the world, but I think he's seriously going to be making a run for it in the next couple of years. And nobody does what this guy does. Nobody. Quinn Hughes doesn't do it. Miro Heiskanen doesn't do it. Victor Hedman doesn't do it. None of these great young defensemen that we're seeing coming up who are very, very, very good, none of them can do what Cale Makar does. Not a single one. I believe he's a premier goal scorer in the NHL. Not a premier goal-scoring defenseman, a premier goal scorer in the NHL. And the things he does, nobody else can do. Like, so go out, try and find that guy. Try and find that guy. Try and find him right now. I was going to ask you a question
about Cale Makar. Okay. I was going to ask you a question about Cale Makar, which is, how would you compare him to, in his prime, Erik Karlsson?
Better defensively?
Really? I thought that in his prime, Erik Karlsson was very good in his own zone.
Erik Karlsson was Erik Karlsson's best defense was the fact that he had the puck all the time, right?
Doesn't hurt.
Way better goal scorer, more dynamic offensively, probably faster, just more. Like Erik Karlsson was brilliant, but like you didn't see Erik Karlsson going one-on-one against 4 guys and going in and scoring. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Like that's what this guy does. That's what this guy does. He picks up the puck, and he did it in one of the games. He picks up the puck, he goes through the neutral zone, and he goes, "Hey, wait a minute, I've got a seam here." And then the next thing you know, he's in on a great chance. Yeah. I haven't seen a defenseman like this since like Paul Coffey. Even like I'm not even sure Paul Coffey's going to be remembered as good as this guy. I mean, they're talking about him being as good as Bobby Orr.
So
it's legitimate. It's legitimate.
Made fun of that take a couple weeks ago. Are you now on board with that take?
It's legitimate. Yeah, it's legitimate. Yeah.
I mean, we made fun of it, but it was more like, got to see him win something before we can start making those comparisons. And now he has.
Check mark.
Yeah.
Check mark. Won the Conn Smythe, won the Stanley Cup, won the Norris. Like he's going to be in the Hart Trophy conversation in future years. I don't doubt that for a second.
Yeah. And
there's got to be some years where he's going to be the best player in the NHL.
I mean, and to a point that you made a while ago about awards voting and the fact that it takes place in the regular season for the most part, and it makes me think of that had somebody seen what Makar did in the playoffs, and not even using the playoffs necessarily to not even using the playoffs to color their opinion, but rather using the playoffs to go back and go, man, maybe I have not watched enough Cale Makar, and go and watch some Colorado Avalanche highlights. You know, he might have gotten a lot more love for the Hart Trophy. Yeah,
he might have. He was. I had him on my ballot. I had him as one of my top 5. He wasn't a finalist, but I don't know if he. Well, I think he was. I think I had. I mean, people can go back and look at it now. It's all public, but I had Matthews, McDavid. Well, I might not. I had Matthews, McDavid. I know Steven Stamkos was my 5th. Cale Makar was my 4th, and I can't remember who my 3rd would have been. I can't remember. But yeah. So, but anyways, you can look it up. It's all public knowledge now. Everybody's vote for everything. So yeah.
That's why I laugh. When people get upset about the Oscars, I'm like,
the
NHL awards are more, more like, transparently done and properly done than the Oscars, right? Like,
it didn't used to be that way. It's only been the last couple of years. Yeah. And it was the PHWA, the Writers Association, that elected to do that. Like we actually we kept going back and forth every year. Are we going to do it? Are we not going to do it? We finally had a vote, and we decided that we were going to make our votes public, because I think it's right. It keeps us accountable. It keeps us on our toes.
There's a word for that,
It's called transparency.
Masochism.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, I haven't gotten
my votes.
I haven't gotten any flack yet this year for any of my votes.
Seriously, I feel like you don't go to the grocery store without catching flack.
Yeah. I get so much flack. My nickname should be Roberta.
What?
I get so much flack. My nickname should be Roberta. Roberta Flack, singer? No.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No. R&B?
I'm sorry.
No. Okay.
I screwed up.
All right. Well,
this is on me, Ken.
No. Clearly, I underestimated your.
Overestimated, Ken. Overestimated.
I overestimated your ability to
this
recall.
Is two grammatical. This is two grammatical corrections I've had to give you in 2 weeks, Ken. This is slipping.
That's terrible. Okay, so Colorado Avalanche. Here's my take on the Colorado Avalanche right now.
Let's hear it.
I know they have to.
They're good at hockey.
Either re-sign. They either have to re-sign or replace Nazem Kadri. They have to either re-sign or replace Darcy Kemper. They have to either re-sign or replace Josh Manson. They have to figure out. They have to go to arbitration probably with Arturi Lehkonen. But to me, the absolute number one order of business for the Colorado Avalanche is to get Nathan MacKinnon under a long-term deal. He's got 1 year left at $6.3 million. They can extend him anytime they want. If it were me and I were Joe Sakic, I would make that priority number one. Not Nazem Kadri, not Darcy Kemper, not anybody. I would make Nathan MacKinnon number one priority. And I would say to Nathan MacKinnon, what I would do is, I don't even know when their Stanley Cup parade is. Have they had it yet? I don't even know.
No, I don't think they've had it yet.
What I would do if I were Joe Sakic is I would wait till the end of the Stanley Cup parade, and I would pull Nathan MacKinnon aside after the Stanley Cup parade and go, well, that was fun, wasn't it? That was a lot of fun, eh?
Catch him on an emotional high.
No, seriously. Yeah. That was a lot of fun, eh? Would you like to try and maybe do this a couple of more times?
Yeah.
Well, okay. Then if you do, then we've got to sit down and we've got to talk, and we've got to talk money and term. And I'm not giving you more than Cale Makar. I'm not even giving you what I'm giving Cale Makar, because he's better than you. But Nathan MacKinnon has expressed, and this has come up before. Like for the longest time, he was the biggest bargain in the NHL at $6.3 million on a long-term deal.
Oh yeah.
And he has expressed a number of times that he doesn't really care. He doesn't really care if he's the highest paid player. I think he's shown that he wants to win. Okay. Yeah. So now is the time when you go, okay, we just won. We got a chance to do something really special here with this group, but we're going to need you to play ball with us. So you're not going to get full term, and you're not getting $10 million.
Right.
But you are going to get a chance. We are going to give you Braden Point, Sidney Crosby money or whatever, and a chance to win a Stanley Cup every year. And to me, that is priority number one, because you've got to keep the core together. I mean, as good as Nazem Kadri is, he's not a core player on that team, in my opinion. You need, the core players, are, McKinnon, Makar,
Landeskog,
to a lesser extent, Landeskog and Rantanen, maybe a Devin Taves, guys like that. And championship teams can keep those cores together. Chicago did it a ton of times. They kept their core players, they kept their best players together, and then they just moved in parts in and out, in and out, in and out. Like if I'm Colorado, I ain't giving Valeri Nichushkin big money and big term. I don't care what he did in these playoffs.
Yeah.
I do care what he did in these playoffs, but that would be the biggest mistake, in my opinion, is to overpay Valeri Nichushkin for what he did in these playoffs, because he's not that player. He's also he's a guy, yes, who was a stud in these playoffs and was excellent, but he's also a guy who earlier in his career went like 90 games without scoring a single goal.
Yeah.
He is what he is, right?
Yeah.
So
he's better than the 90 games, and he's not as good as
exactly. And you know what? Guys like that, you have to view them as being replaceable. You want them? Yeah, sure. You want them there. You want to have them. You want them in your organization. You want to keep them if you can. But if somebody's willing to Barclay Goodrow, Valeri Nichushkin, then you say, okay, that's good. Go get your money. You got your cup. Go get your money. See you later. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. This is not a Habs reference. This is a Philadelphia Flyers reference.
Okay.
When Dale Weiss was on the Montreal Canadiens.
Okay.
Sorry. No, but there's time and time again, and your point of Barclay Goodrow, Dale Weiss is another one, guys that overperform what they truly are in the playoffs. And nobody's saying that Valeri Nichushkin's bad. Barclay Goodrow is a good player. Dale Weiss is a good player. But they got themselves an incredible contract because of a one good playoffs run or something like that. And chances are they will never have even the opportunity to make that kind of impact on a team, because Barclay Goodrow was on the third line in Tampa.
Yeah.
He wasn't relied upon to be the guy. To your point about not Phil Kessel, pardon me, the other guy that was on the Leafs at the time, Nazem Kadri. To your point about Nazem Kadri, you've heard me say it before. I always ask when I look at a team and I think about, them winning a Stanley Cup, I always say, who's their Nick Bonino?
Yeah.
Who's their second/third line center that, can still pot 30 goals in a year? And I always think about Nick Bonino. But the one thing that I really, really, really wanted to get at, because this is a take that you made that just aged like fine wine, and you can go back on this podcast and listen to it, or just take my word for it. You said Artturi Lehkonen might have the most impact of any player moved on trade deadline day.
Yay for me.
Give yourself a pat on the back, Kenny. You get a gold star. But the honest truth is, Lehkonen scored the Stanley Cup clinching goal.
He did.
Lehkonen scored, was it the conference final clinching goal?
He did. And just like he did last year. Just like he did last year. The final
clinching goal last year for the Montreal Canadiens.
Yes.
This is a guy that scores like 7 goals a year. There needs to be that the Dos Equis guy, right? The most man of the world.
Yeah.
Like
I don't score often.
I don't score often. Yeah, but when I do, I clinch playoff series.
But when I do, they're massive. Yeah,
huge.
Yeah.
And
his dad's awesome. His dad is awesome.
Yeah, you've told me that before.
Artturi Lehkonen's dad, his name is Ismo, and he's actually a coach in Finland, and he does some TV. And I'm sure he was at the final this year. This is the first final I haven't been at since 2003. Yeah. But I've had beers with Ismo lots of times, and he's like the greatest guy ever.
He seems like, and Lehkonen seems like such a great guy too. And
the apple does not fall far from the tree. Finns are great. Finns are great. Finns are like the most they're the most non-confrontational, low maintenance like people you'll ever meet in your life.
Yeah.
They're great. I love Finnish people. I love Swedish people. Love them.
The thing about don't let either Swedish or Finnish people hear you say that about the other, But the thing that I thought was so funny was on one of Lehkonen's goals where he's streaking up the wing. somebody on Twitter, and it got a lot of play and a lot of stuff. You're saying like, oh, he didn't do any forwards crossovers, his skating technique's weak, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, who cares? He's there. He's fast. You know what I mean? Like, this is what drives me crazy is when you see these skills coaches, and goalie coaches do it too, and they go on Instagram and they show off these incredible, and it's like, well, why don't you do that when somebody's trying to murder you? How's that? Because that's what hockey is. Hockey is performing a ballet while 5 guys with sticks try to murder you. And that's what's so beautiful about this incredible sport, the best sport in the world that you love and I love. And probably if you're taking the time to listen to this podcast, you love it too. But it just, Lehkonen had himself a series just for the ages. It really was, for all the talk of Nichushkin and your take about, Lehkonen being the steal of free agency, of the trade deadline. Now, I want to put together my conspiracy theory board, with like the threads and the, the grassy knoll and the whole thing, right? There was a second shooter kind of conspiracy theory. Here we go. I write for HabsEyesOnThePrize.com, as you know. Okay. Yeah. The fellow that basically did mostly my job before me was the stats guy for HabsEyesOnThePrize.com maybe about 5 or 6 years ago. He got hired by the Colorado Avalanche as their stats guy. Nice. And then the analytics darling of the Montreal Canadiens gets picked up at the trade deadline by the same team that hires the guy who used to cover the guy, right? Mind blown. No, but isn't that just an interesting little string of, you got to think he had something to do with it. Oh, yeah. Yeah, you think. Yeah. What's the point of having an analytics guy if he doesn't weigh in on those decisions, right? Exactly. Well, you stay in your nerd room. Sometimes they do, and they don't get listened to. Yeah, they get fired in the case of Matt Pfeffer. But you got yourself a little dog there, Ken. Yeah, it's Bubba the Magnificent Bastard Wonder Dog. Shut up. Okay, so do you have much more to say about the Colorado Avalanche? I mean, obviously they have the makings of a dynasty team. They do. They do. But they've got it. I think like I said, I think that priority number 1 is getting Nathan MacKinnon under contract and finishing his career as a Colorado Avalanche. Priority number 2, if I'm them, is I turn around and I say, here's a Chicago Blackhawks reference. See, I know other teams that aren't Montreal Canadiens. Is I say, well, we won our cup with Antti Niemi. Now, where's our Corey Crawford? Yeah. Who's getting us 2 more? Because let's just be honest with ourselves here. And look, take nothing away. He made a great clutch save on Kucherov in the 3rd period. A beautiful butterfly slide that he has let pucks go through 5-hole doing that exact same move. And it's not looked pretty. And he made the save in the 3rd period right when it counted. So, credit where credit is due, but I'm not hitching my horse to that wagon. Twice. Yeah, but you know what? Nobody was hitching their horse to that wagon this year. It was like, including you, who's saying, oh, they got to go out and get Carey Price. They got to go out and get this guy. They got to go back and get Marc-Andre Fleury. They got to go get this guy. They got to go get this guy. Well, they didn't go get that guy, and they won. Why do you think they can't come back with this guy? If Darcy Kemper is willing to play on a reasonable deal for reasonable money and reasonable term, I'd bring him back. Because for again, the record, I did not say Carey Price or Marc-Andre Fleury. Okay, some other people were, but anyway. No, I didn't. The thing was that I didn't have a solution though, and I fully admitted I didn't have a solution. I said this is not the goalie that I would want, but I don't know who is available, and you can go and get for that playoff run. So I did not have the solution. Right. And I'm fully admitting that. And I don't have the solution for this offseason either. Right, but to overpay in terms of term and money for Darcy Kemper, no. Yeah. No. You can find a replacement pretty easily. You can probably find one fairly easily. How much does Jack Campbell want for a chance at a cup? Yeah. I take him over Darcy Kemper every day of the week. Okay. Yeah. Anyways, just food for thought, but yeah, if I'm them, I'm turning around and I'm looking at the Chicago Blackhawks as obviously, they have been in the salary cap era kind of the reference team that we always go back to. Yeah. And I'm thinking to myself, they won one with Antti Niemi, and they did not just turn around and say, well, let's run it back with Antti Niemi. Right. So. But it was Antti Niemi. Like, it was Antti Niemi. Come on. Yeah, I know.